Welcome back to Eurosport Cycling, and we are at our final episode of our mountain bike build series here at the UCI headquarters. As you can see behind me, the bike is built, the wheels are in, and we're ready for the most exciting part of our bike build. We get to get it out of the stand and set it up so we can head out onto the trails. All right, we finally got this bad boy out of the stand and we are jonesing to get out on the trail and ride it. But let's start with a couple of basic setup tips to get you riding safely and comfortably and enjoy your first experience on your brand new mountain bike right now. First things first, let's start with our saddle height. So with your dropper seat post, hit your button, ensure that your seat is all the way up. Give it a little pull there to make sure it's at its full extension. And we're gonna start with our saddle height. Why is saddle height so important? Well, this is what sets the basis of our riding. We pedal up the hills here. This really affects our knees, our hamstrings, our hips. So we're gonna start with a nice base setting to get your seat height in a comfortable position as we move forward. We're gonna flip our bike around here. Now, ideally, you wanna have a space like a workbench or a work stand or a buddy that you can lean on and balance on here. Start with your seat post down. As you throw your leg over your bike, why do you have your seat post down and the bench on the right? Because your dropper seat post lever is on the left-hand side. So now I can lean on the bench, grab my bike, stand up on the pedals. You want that seat post in the most extended position. Give your pedals a quick turn and this will initially set up how high or low your seat is. If your hips are rocking back and forth and you're reaching for your pedals, straight away your seat is too high. You want it a little bit lower. Now, once you've found that comfortable position, put your left crank arm down. So it's like at number 6 if you were looking at a clock. So all the way down at the very bottom, straight to the ground. Now place your heel in line with that crank arm. So your heel is down on that pedal in line with the crank arm and find a comfortable position for your leg. If you're reaching for that pedal and it's too far down, your seat is too high. If it's bent too much, your seat is too low. So you want that in a nice, comfortable, straight leg position to start and ensure that you have shoes on. If you do this barefoot, you're gonna remove about 10 to 15 mil of spacing with a bare foot. So make sure you have at least a shoe on or ideally your mountain bike shoes. Now we have a base setting for our seat height. We're gonna jump on the bike here and we're gonna get ready to adjust our cockpit. Now our handlebars is where this starts. The first thing you wanna do is make sure your handlebars are centered. And a lot of handlebars these days come with line adjustments on the handlebars to really ensure that your handlebars are straight in the middle and not overbalanced to one side or the other. Set up your handlebars so they're centered, and from here we're going to adjust our bar roll. So that means how far forward or back our handlebars are rolled. As a general rule of thumb, this is very specific to your individual needs and wants, but as a general rule of thumb, you want them nice and central. You can jump back on the bike as you adjust them as a bit of a line of sight. Line the bend of your bar up with your handlebar so it's directly in line with your handlebar. As you jump back on, give it a bit of a feel. It gives you a neutral feel because remember, this is your first contact point that you have. So your handlebar bar roll can dictate the bend of your wrist, elbow, and shoulder. So you want it nice and central, nice and comfortable. As you ride and as you develop your riding technique and ability, you can adjust your handlebar roll forward or back, depending on your own personal preferences. My personal preference is to roll them back. Other riders have their personal preference to ride them forward. General rule of thumb, keep them central to start with your setup. We have our Allen key in hand and we're about to adjust our handlebars. Now let's take a step back and get stuck into some of our mountain bike jargon again to make sure it's clear and precise what we are about to adjust. We've got our handlebars, which is attached to our handlebar stem. There's a lot of bolts up here and it's very easy to get confused and lost in this setup. As we look at our handlebar stem, we have a bolt that goes through the middle. Now this is the bolt that attaches our fork to our headset. That stays nice and tight. We do not touch this bolt to adjust our handlebars. We are looking for the bolts at the front of our handlebar stem, which is attached directly to the handlebar that we can see in front of us. We want to give them a little bit of a loosen, not so the handlebars move freely without us touching them, but just enough so we can adjust the bar roll of our handlebars and it still has a little bit of bite. You want our handlebars to move comfortably up and down to find that ideal position, but not too much that when you let go, it just falls automatically down. Okay, if they fall automatically down, nip them up a little bit with your Allen key bolt just so it grabs the handlebar gently and allows you to freely move the handlebars and they stay still in place when you let go. One thing to remember when you are adjusting your handlebar stem is that all stems are different. So please check your manufacturer's website for all of your torque settings and specific details to adjusting your specific stem. Take the time to make sure that your stem is adjusted properly. It's adjusted to the right torque settings so your handlebars are locked in place before you head out for your first ride. While you still have your 4mm Allen key in hand, it's now time to adjust our brake lever position. Now, similarly to what we did with our handlebars and our stem, we undo our brake lever bolt so it's loose enough to maneuver, but not so loose that it flops around by itself. With our brake lever position, we're gonna be chasing a neutral position to start. Once again, the specific setup that you like is specific to how you would like your brake lever setup. For now, a base level setting is nice and neutral. So you want the neutral part to be in line with your forearm and your wrist to go down so it's nice and comfortable. If you put your brake too far down, when you are descending, you'll be reaching for your brake and your body position will be forced to come forward to grab that brake. Vice versa, if it's too high, when you need that brake, you'll be having to lean down to reach for that brake lever, which again puts a bunch of stress on the rest of your body. You want this nice and neutral, nice and smooth in a similar angle to what your arm is, so it takes a lot of pressure off your joints, off your hands, and it keeps your brakes in a ready position so you don't have to think about it when you're riding down the trail. Now that we've adjusted the position of our brakes, underneath our brakes you'll find our dropper post lever and our shifter. Now our shifter is for the gears at the back. Now you want this in a comfortable position to ensure that your thumb just naturally finds it. You don't want it banging your fingers when you're riding down, but you want it there so you can naturally just find it with your thumb. If you're riding down the trail and you have to physically look for where your shifters are, they're in the wrong position. So if you can find that position with your shifter that you naturally just hit the levers when you want to go up and down your gears, it'll make your riding a lot easier. That is just as applicable with your dropper seat post lever. Nice and comfortable, nice and simple, out of the way and there when you need it. The comfortable position for the shifter is applicable for our dropper seat post lever. There when you need it, out of the way when you don't, and nice and comfortable. Now, one of the biggest components of our bike is our suspension, and this is a minefield of settings and adjustments. We're gonna start with a very basic setting now to simply get you out and start your mountain bike journey. Please consult your manufacturer's website for exact details of what particular brand of shock you have and the particular settings that are suited to your bicycle and your shock. But right now, let's start with a very, very base setting. On our shock and our fork, you'll notice we have a little rubber O-ring that's attached to the exposed shaft of our shock and the exposed shaft of our fork. This is what we're gonna use to eyeball a base setting for sag. Now, what is sag? Sag is the static setting that we have when we sit on our bikes. We're gonna wanna swing our leg over, take a seat onto our bike. If we have something to lean on and balance on, that's fantastic. If not, simply load your weight onto the bike, hold onto the handlebars, a little bit of balance, rip your feet off the ground. Make sure that little O-ring is up tight against the top of your shock and the bottom of your fork. Give it this a couple of goes. Sit back down, feet off the ground. We'll push that O-ring back up, push that O-ring back down one more time. And now we have our sag measurement. Hop off the bike, eyeball where those O-rings are sitting. So as you can see, that thing's not quite half, but it's not quite at the top. If this O-ring is halfway down your exposed shaft, your bike is too soft. You need to add some air pressure to make your bike stiffer. If this O-ring is at the very top and it's barely moved at all, your bike is too hard. So you need to remove some air pressure to soften your shock settings. Pay attention to this, give it a look, eyeball. Remember, this is a very rough base setting. As you ride, as you explore, and as you get deeper into your mountain biking journey, you will be able to adjust this air pressure, the compression settings, and the rebound settings that are specific to you and the riding ability and terrain that you ride every day. As we look at our fork measurement to set our sag on our suspension, it's a little bit different to our shock measurement. Our fork measurement, you don't want any more than approximately 20% of your exposed shaft when you look at this O-ring measurement here. So approximately 20% of that shaft to start your fork setting. Your seat height is set, your cockpit is comfortable, and your suspension is in a realm that is okay for you to get out on the trails. Last thing is our tire pressure. This is what our first contact with the ground is going to be. So let's chat about a couple of ways that you can set your tire pressure, again at a base setting, to get you started out on your mountain bike adventure. With your tires, if you have a tire pressure gauge, you want to start with a range between 20 and 30 PSI. That means if you are lighter, around 60 to 70 kilos, you want to be closer to 20 to 25 PSI, 25 in the rear, 20 to 22 in the front. If you are heavier, if you're closer to 80 kilos or above, you want to be in the range of 25-ish in the front and around 30-ish in the back. Now, this is all dependent on the riding terrain that you ride, your weight, and your riding ability. Here's a cheeky scale that we use to adjust our tire pressures if you don't have a pressure gauge. It's called the fruit scale. If you have a banana, an apple, and an orange, use that to gauge how soft your tire is. So grab the ball of your hand, the palm of your hand, link your fingers onto the rim, simply use your body weight to squeeze that tire down. Now, if that bad boy feels like a ripe banana, it's too soft. If you push down on the tire and it doesn't move at all and it's rock hard like an apple, it's too hard. You want to go to an orange, slightly ripe orange. So when you press down on the tire, there's a bit of give and you'll have enough grip out on the trail so the tire won't slide around. You'll be able to pedal efficiently and have plenty of grip on the descending parts of the trail. There we go, our brand new bike build is ready to shreddy. Stay tuned to the home of cycling, Eurosport Cycling, for all of this year's UCI Mountain Bike World Series action. Tune in to TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, and we will see you trackside.